If you follow politics at all, then you will remember that President Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, held a news conference right after the 2020 election. It was held, if you remember, at Four Seasons Total Landscaping, a gardening business just off the interstate in Philadelphia, nestled in between an adult bookstore and a crematorium. Honestly, I don't know that we ever definitively settled on why the press conference was held there. But the whole reason Rudy Giuliani trotted himself out that morning in front of the gardening business was to baselessly claim that the election had been stolen. The real chef's kiss here is that that fever dream of a press conference took place exactly as national news networks were calling the election for Joe Biden. And honestly, as unbelievable as that series of events was, it was not even the most memorable news conference that Rudy Giuliani held that month. Just over a week later, Mr. Giuliani held another one where he appeared to be, for lack of a better term, melting. During that presser, he claimed that Trump had won Pennsylvania by 300,000 votes and Michigan by 50,000 votes. Mind you, there was no evidence of that, but he promised it was coming. Giuliani made those claims alongside another Trump lawyer who alleged that the election had been stolen by the Venezuelans and the Cubans and the Chinese, and that the voting machines had been hacked by Hugo Chavez, even though Hugo Chavez had died 7 years prior. All you had to do here was connect the dots. So those bizarre spectacles were memorable, but they were just the, what shall we say, the amuse-bouche for what was to come. By early December, Giuliani had testified before Georgia state lawmakers, spreading an elaborate conspiracy theory that two poll workers had brought in suitcases full of fraudulent Biden ballots and scanned those fraudulent ballots through the tabulation machines multiple times. Giuliani showed surveillance video that he claimed showed the poll workers exchanging USB memory sticks, saying it looked like they were passing vials of heroin or cocaine. In reality, that video showed one of the women passing the other one a ginger mint. The effect of that testimony, though, was that those two women's lives were destroyed. They faced death threats. They were forced to quit their jobs. They went into hiding. And yet Giuliani's conspiracy theories did not end. They rolled on like a freight train. The January 6th committee uncovered substantial evidence that Mr. Giuliani had personally pressured officials in swing states to draw up alternate slates of electors, proclaiming Trump the winner in states that Biden had actually won. To this end, Giuliani called the Pennsylvania House Speaker on a nearly daily basis. It did not matter that lawmaker's attorneys eventually told Mr. Giuliani to, please stop. Giuliani kept calling.
Mr. Speaker, this is Rudy Giuliani and Jenna Ellis. We're calling you together because we'd like to discuss, obviously, the election. Hey, Brian, it's Rudy. I really have something important to call to your attention that I think really changes things. I understand that you don't want to talk to me now. I just want to bring some facts to your attention and talk to you as a fellow Republican.
Giuliani did the same thing in Arizona, again, pushing for state officials to overturn the election results. And when Giuliani was pressed for evidence of voting malfeasance, well, he famously admitted, quote, "We've got lots of theories. We just don't have the evidence." Aside from pressuring lawmakers, Giuliani helped file a raft of baseless lawsuits with other members of Trump's dubiously named elite strike force. More than 60 cases were brought forth on the president's behalf, and none of the allegations of fraud panned out. As things grew more desperate, Giuliani took part in an hours-long meeting in the Oval Office in which he and other outside advisors batted around the idea of having the military seize voting machines. And although he thought that was maybe a bridge too far, Giuliani personally asked the Department of Homeland Security about seizing those voting machines. When all of this went nowhere, Giuliani became a key part of the president's war room at the Willard Hotel near the White House. In that room, Giuliani geared up with other Trump loyalists for the last stand, an effort to block the certification of electoral votes on January 6th. And on January 6th itself, Rudy Giuliani famously stood in front of thousands at the Capitol and made these remarks before all hell broke loose.
If we're right, a lot of them will go to jail. So let's have trial by combat. I'm willing to stake my reputation. The president is willing to stake his reputation on the fact that we're going to find criminality there.
It is by no means an overstatement to say that Rudy Giuliani was a central figure in President Trump's effort to stay in power. And that history is worth remembering because it makes this latest reporting today from the New York Times all the more notable. According to the Times, Giuliani was interviewed last week by federal prosecutors investigating Mr. Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election. The voluntary interview, which took place under what is known as a proffer agreement, was a significant development in the election interference investigation led by special counsel Jack Smith, and the latest indication that Mr. Smith and his team are actively seeking witnesses who might cooperate in the case. The session with Mr. Giuliani focused on the ways that Mr. Trump sought to maintain his grip on power, including the fake elector scheme, the conspiracy theories pushed by Trump's legal team, and the scene at the Willard. A political advisor to Mr. Giuliani says that the appearance was entirely voluntary and conducted in a professional manner. Now, it is worth noting exactly what a proffer agreement entails. As the Times notes, a proffer agreement is an understanding between prosecutors and people who are subjects of criminal investigations that can precede a formal cooperation deal. The subjects agree to provide useful information to the government, sometimes to tell their side of the story, to stave off potential charges, or to avoid testifying under subpoena before a grand jury. In exchange, prosecutors agree not to use those statements against them in future criminal proceedings unless it is determined that they were lying. This is certainly reporting that makes you sit up and pay attention, and it also raises a whole lot of questions.